Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. And today's topic is a couple of strategies to test and resolve data issues with case when statements. I feel this topic is very important, especially if we are in data. What we most of the time we do is we take input and we write some rules and then we convert our data to something else and then we create an output. But it is important to see whether our output is exactly what we are expecting. And what here I'm also going to do is I'm going to discuss three scenarios, and all of this will be on character variables itself. And the first scenario is related to case specificity of character variable value. And to discuss this, first I would go with my first data set, which is known as scenario 1. And in here, this dataset has two variables, id and short underscore prof. Now let us quickly run this data step and create our dataset, and in here you can see that we have created our dataset. And now here my requirement is to take the value of this short underscore prof and create a new variable profession. And also whenever we have the value of act, the new variable should show it as actor. When it is doc, it should show as doctor. When it is eng, it should show as engineer. If it doesn't fall into any of these three buckets, then it should show as something else. And in here I have written proc SQL, and I'm also doing a create table statement along with case when statements. If you are new to proc SQL, please have a look at my complete proc SQL tutorial which covers all of these topics, and link for the same I will give in the description below. Now let us quickly run this proc SQL step and see our result. And once I run this, I can see my output in here, and in the output, if you see closely, doc has become doctor, act has become actor. But if you look into sixth observation, there is ACT and it has fallen into something else bucket. Now this is not we might have intended to do. As there are only 8 rows, this is very easy to look it manually. Oh, this was not mapped to this, so this probably should have become actor. We can guess something like that. But in the real world, you just don't have 8 rows. You may have 1,000 rows, you may have 1,000,000 rows. So how do we solve this kind of problem? Is first we need to test. We need to really see what is falling into this something else bucket. So what I have done is I'm saying select distinct short underscore prof where the profession equal to something else, and I'm picking the data set from here and I'm writing that in my from statement. And here the important point to remember is I'm not looking into everything, but I'm just looking into something else bucket and trying to understand where the things might have gone wrong. Let us quickly run this and see our result. So here we have ACT and XYZ. We can understand that XYZ can go into something else bucket, but we do not want this ACT fall into something else bucket. Now how are we going to solve this? To solve this, it is pretty simple. But before doing that, I want to reiterate one thing. Whenever you are handling any data project, don't assume that the data will be exactly clean like what you are expecting. There will be a lot of anomalies. There will be a lot of mistakes in the way the data is presented, in the form of format, or even the values itself could be little bit different. So it is always important to look into your data. So for this particular scenario, wherein we have the small ACT, we really can fix it by doing something like what I'm showing you in here. What I'm showing you in here is I'm creating this scenario 1 underscore assignment data again, and I'm creating that from scenario 1 data set. And what I'm really doing in here is in the case when statement, I'm doing upcase and comparing with the upcase value. Again, I'm not changing the short underscore prof value, but what I'm really doing is I am converting in the memory the short underscore value to upcase, means all of the values will be upcased in the memory, not in the data set. and then I am comparing with the values. Now the small ACT also becomes a capital ACT, and here another ACT which has only initial capital letter, that also will be captured here. By writing the uppercase in this fashion, what we are really doing is we are capturing all the variants of ACT and then we are comparing it. And in this way, we will not lose any values because of case specificity. Now let us quickly run our code and see our result. Now here you can see that our result kind of looks nice. Instead of calling this result, I could say my output data, and you can see that everything looks nice and clean. The small ACT also becomes actor. So once you have fixed the problem, it is always important to retest the same code what I have in my test. Now I am looking into where profession is equal to something else. What is really falling in that bucket I need to look into. Now let me quickly run this and see the result. Oh, I'm only having one value XYZ which is falling into something else bucket, and this looks correct. So here if you look into, we have followed a three-step way to solve this problem. The first one is, after creating the data set as per our requirement, I have tested, and then based off the test, I did some change and fixed the issue, and I have retested it back to make sure that everything is right. So this three-step process will help you a lot. Now let us talk about a different issue. In here, the issue is more data itself. Now here I am calling this data scenario 2, and our data set is pretty similar to what we have seen. Let me quickly create this and then we can run our next step. And in here, if you see, I am doing the same code what I have done previously, and let's run this. And if I see my output data, if I look into 6th row, actor is also falling into something else bucket. Now what we can do in this kind of scenario really is talk to the business people and ask whether actor should also be shown as actor in the profession, not something else. Most probably they will say yes, and then you may have to adjust the code for this actor. Again, what we have to do is, again we test it and we test what has fallen into our something else bucket, and then you can see that actor and XYZ has fallen into something else bucket. This is not what we want. So what we will do is we will try to fix it, and here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use the same code which I have discussed in here. But what I'm saying is, I'm saying when uppercase short underscore prof in act or actor, then make it as actor. So I'm capturing more than one kind of value and then I'm saying that as actor. So we have to be always careful of this, and especially you should always careful of what is your in else statement, and always check your else results. Again, we can retest our code and then see whether that is what we are expecting. I think I did not run this, how to fix it. Let me run how to fix it. And then once I run it, I can retest the code, and in the code you can see that we have fixed issue, and then short underscore prof is equal to showing XYZ. In the first scenario, what we were talking about is more of case specificity. In the second scenario, it is more about the issue with the data itself. And sometimes, apart from that, we as a humans can also do some mistake. Now, for that, I'm talking about data scenario 3, and we will discuss about this particular data set. Again, everything in this data is super clean, and then let's quickly run scenario 3. And once I run this scenario 3, I can see my result in here. I can see my data in here. And then what I want to do is I want to write my code like what I have done when short underscore prof equal to act, then actor, and pretty much similar, and then else bucket goes into something else. Now let us quickly run this and see our result. And I also need to change the data set name in here before running that. Once I run this, I can see my result in here. And here, if you look into 7th row and 5th row, ENG is also shown as doctor. Again, this is very few rows, so manually seeing is easy. But let's see what we have done wrong in here. So what I was doing was I was copy pasting doc as doctor, ENG, then doctor. So this is something wrong. So whenever we are doing anything manually, we can always do some mistakes. So how do we fix this kind of issues? Now what I want to do here, I want to do a distinct short underscore and profession. Now let us quickly run this and see our result. Here I have taken this data set and I have run distinct short underscore prof and profession. So this will give me distinct combination of short underscore prof and profession. Instead of looking into the whole data, then here you can see that act as actor, doc as doctor, ENG as doctor. So this, because we are doing a distinct and only we will see few combination, it is easy to see manually than to see into a large data set manually. Now we can fix this issue by changing ENG to engineer, and we can run this. Again, once we run this, everything looks little bit better. Let's retest and then see our result back. And once I retest my code, it shows me the result as we intended to have. Now what I want to conclude from in here is, whenever you are doing any transformations with your data, always test your output and also change what is required and then again retest it. Here in some of cases what I have done is I have just written one test and then fixed it. Sometimes you may have to write 2 tests or more than 2. That's all for this topic. If you like this topic, please give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe. Thank you.